Okay, we're live on YouTube, and I'm going to share your PowerPoint. Can you see your PowerPoint, Dr. Vijil?
I can see it. It's showing just one slide. I mean, it's showing all of the slides like it's not in presentation mode.
I don't see anything.
I suppose that's fine, Mario.
No, I can get. Give me a second here. Let me just make sure I'm here. Okay, where is it? Share. This is my shared screen.
That's better.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself now.
Good afternoon, Fabens Wildcats. I wish that the circumstances were different and this topic was not one about COVID, but this is our reality right now. And I'd like to provide this update to all of the staff.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't think they can see it yet, Mario.
Nancy, it's live. I can see it on my YouTube. It's live. It's good.
Do we have an update?
You're good to go, Dr. Vijil. It's good.
Okay, I'll start over for the benefit of starting over. Good afternoon, Wildcat family. I wish the circumstances were different. However, they are not. The reality is that we are surrounded by COVID, and I needed to provide an update to all of the staff. I'd like to welcome all of the campus principals who are here with me as panelists. Ms. Audrey Ortegon Galvan, our Director of Human Resources, and Ms. Michelle Gonzalez, Assistant Superintendent. As I'm going through this presentation, you may have some questions, and I would ask that you hold on to that question and ask the campus principals and or your directors if you have any questions. If they do not know the answer, then certainly we will get that answer to you. We will communicate whatever is necessary to the entire staff if it's a question that we feel that we may have missed the mark on something and didn't provide the information. I'll be discussing some definitions, and we're going to take a look at some numbers and just information that help contribute to the plan that we have devised for Fabens ISD. On the next slide, this information is taken from the Texas Education Agency. It is a definition of what they term on-campus instruction. And I'll go ahead and read that to you. I know it's a little bit small to see. However, on our district website, there is a link to the Texas Education Agency, and there's a lot of information provided about COVID, a lot about the guidelines. This is their definition of on-campus instruction. Subject to certain exceptions listed below, on-campus instruction must be offered for all grades served by the campus every day for every student whose parents want them to access on-campus instruction for each day a campus is providing instruction, given its instructional calendar. Exceptions are more fully described in this FAQ below. And they include the first bullet, remote-only instruction provided by a full-time virtual campus operating under the Texas VSN. That's the Texas Virtual Network, and we are not a part of that organization. The next bullet for virtual instruction, remote-only instruction provided because on-campus instruction is prohibited by an order issued by an entity other than an LEA authorized to issue such an order under state law. Wildcat family, you have heard on the news differing opinions about the order that was presented to us by Judge Samaniego yesterday. There is another group led by the mayor that says that that order is not valid. We receive our orders from the governor, and we follow the guidelines of the Texas Education Agency, who is led by Commissioner Morath. All of these entities have a little differing view about their perspective about COVID and essential and non-essential and the order, everything that you will hear about in the order. The two differing entities, the county judge and the city, will have to come to some sort of terms. And we don't know what that is at this moment. But again, I will reiterate that we as ISDs take our order from the governor and the Texas Education Agency led by Commissioner Morath. If I should receive updated information regarding this order over the weekend, I certainly will get that message out to you. The next case for remote only is a description of the waivers that we've already taken advantage of. We submitted a waiver for the transition period when we first opened our schools, then for an additional 4 weeks. It wasn't necessary for us to take the entire 4 weeks. We took 2 weeks and then we opened our doors for students. I'll talk about another waiver under which we are running in just a moment. The last one is, the last bullet says remote instruction as the only option for a subset of students as part of a high school hybrid plan. Specifically for students in grades 9 through 12, school systems may establish a less than daily on-campus attendance option to reduce the number of individuals on a campus at any one time and increasing the total number of students served on an on-campus setting in the LEA, subject to the requirements described in this FAQ below. And so that what is being described is a hybrid schedule that Mr. Prado has the authorization to run at the high school level. We've talked about a hybrid schedule, a hybrid model, and what that would look like. At this time, we're not prepared to move forward with a hybrid schedule. I'll talk about the numbers in just a moment that indicate that we have the number of students who are requesting on-campus instruction at this time and what the plan is for those students. On the next slide, I talked about a waiver under which we are currently running. Next slide, please. And so this is collectively a waiver that was submitted by all Region 19 ISDs. It's called the Region 19 School Safe Zones. This is a waiver that was submitted to the Texas Education Agency and was approved. This is under effect currently and will run through at least the end of January. A lot of work took place. A lot of collaboration took place among all of the school districts in the El Paso region, all under Region 19. to come up with one metric that we would use to determine the amount of students that would come into our buildings. So you see that we have 4 zones created: the red, the orange, the yellow, and the green zone. The percentages that you see below those bubbles indicate a percentage of the hospitalization rate. And so the most severe zone is 20% and above for the hospitalization rate. We've heard a lot about the hospitalization rate, about hospitals running out of beds, about other organizations having to assist in the El Paso region. And so of late, the last few days, we've had numbers in the 40th and 50th percentile for the hospitalization rate. So you see that we are in a severe, if you can call it, a severe red zone. And so we're going to talk about the red zone in just a few minutes on the next slide. But what this indicates is the number of students that we will allow into our buildings in a safe manner. It gives us that guidance. And there's also a website that you can go to, and you can click on the link and check what the hospitalization rate is daily, so that you are informed and you can read this, this waiver for yourself, and you know exactly where we are. This Region 19 school safe zones is posted on our district website. On the next slide, we're going to focus on the red zone. And what does it say under the red zone? Because that's where we are right now. Under the red zone, 20% and above, school systems may, but are not required to restrict access to on-campus instruction for all grade levels. The second bullet says on-campus instruction must still be provided for priority populations. I'll define those priority populations in just a minute. On-campus instruction must be provided at a safe capacity level of priority populations as determined by the district and campus administration. Priority high school students may be served via a hybrid schedule. We just saw that in the definition. Priority middle school students may opt into a hybrid schedule. This is what exists under the red zone. This is also based on the Tri-County hospitalization rate. And as I said, there is a link that you can click on. This is found on our district website in case you want to track the hospitalization rate daily as we are. Number 2, parents have the choice of the instructional delivery method under all of these zones. And number 3, the definition of priority populations are students with no internet access or device at home, students of families who lack effective childcare access, students of parents of essential workers, and students with special academic needs. The definitions and parameters with this entire waiver allow for flexibility for each district to determine what is best for its own district. As you will recall, when we first opened our doors to our students, I know some of you are going to go back in time and remember those days when we did not have a device and a hotspot available for all of our students. And even going back to last March, we were heavy into the copying of assignments and lessons, and we were handing out paper packets. Even when in this school year, when we asked students to return, those who wanted to return, we didn't have the devices and the hotspots to start out with. And teachers have just been the heroes here. I tell you that over and over. You are the true heroes here. You've adapted to everything that has been thrown in your direction. Fortunately, we have been able to secure enough devices and hotspots for any family that needs them. We have distributed the devices and the hotspots. However, if you hear of a family that is in need of a device, needs to exchange it for whatever reason, or a hotspot, please get in touch with us, get in touch with Mr. Mario Dominguez in the technology department, so that we can provide that resource for our students. So that is the information about the red zone, where we are right now with in the waiver that exists for all Region 19 school districts. On the next slide, I just wanted to remind everybody of the wonderful opportunity that we were provided through Governor Abbott, TEA, and the Texas Department of Emergency Management, announcing that we were eligible, we were a pilot school district for the rapid testing pilot program. We have begun our rapid testing. Our team has been trained, and we have gone through some testing for both students and adults, and it is working out fabulously well. We have a very strong team put together, and we learn a little bit more every time that we do a testing, and we're able to gain valuable information. I would say that one of the greatest benefits of the rapid testing pilot program for us has been to identify a patient who was showing no symptoms. We hear about that, an asymptomatic person who tests positive. Their temperature, everybody's temperature is still taken, but we have to remember that that's not the only indicator of being positive with COVID. And so these rapid tests, which take 15 minutes to get a result, allow us to identify people who are walking around with a positive case of COVID and have no idea because they haven't shown any symptoms. They picked it up somewhere and unknowingly may be spreading the virus to others, to their loved ones. And so this has been a great benefit to us to identify patients who are asymptomatic. On the next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about specifics about our district. I apologize if you cannot see these numbers. I hope that you can, and I'm happy to ask Mr. Dominguez to place this entire PowerPoint on our district website in case you want to go back and review anything. But I'll walk you through this chart. It's important information for us to understand the state of our district regarding enrollment, attendance, etc. On the first column, of course, are the campuses. On the next column, you see the total enrollment of students at each of the campuses based on last year's PEIMS snapshot. Last year, it was October 25th, 2019. So this is the number that we reported to the state. Fabens Elementary had 636 students, O'Donnell 305, Fabens Middle 499, Fabens High School 705, for a total of 2,145 students that we reported at PEIMS snapshot to the state last year. This year, today happens to be PEIMS snapshot. So the numbers that we have enrolled today is what will be reported to the state. Fabens Elementary currently has 594 students. That is 42 less than last year at the same time at PEIMS snapshot. We know that many of those students are results of a reduction in the pre-K students and some of the K students. At O'Donnell Intermediate, the current number is 289, and that is 16 students less than last year's snapshot. Fabens Middle, 483, that's 16 less students. Fabens High School is 682, 23 students less than last year's PEAM snapshot, for a total of 2,048 students, or 97 less students than last year. I will say that the total 2048 would have been 2042 unless we had the great efforts by the teams at the high school seeking out the students that didn't return to the high school this year. They were potential dropouts, not succeeding in getting a diploma. But the teams recaptured, I'm very happy to say, 6 of those students who are now enrolled, and they were so close to graduating and had almost given up. And now they are enrolled and probably will graduate this year. Great job, high school teams, on going out and knocking on doors and getting those students back and enrolled in Fabens ISD. The next column is the total on-campus requests for the second 9 weeks. As you recall, we asked parents to submit their response for whether they wanted their child to be a remote learner / virtual or on campus. And then they had a choice. They had the option to change their minds or continue. And we sent out another survey asking them to please commit for what they wanted their child to do on the second 9-week period. And so at Fabens Elementary, 280 families wanted on-campus instruction. O'Donnell Intermediate, 124, Fabens Middle, 127, Fabens High School, 186, for a total then of 717 families who had asked for on-campus instruction. That's about 35% of the entire student body in Fabens ISD. This week, I asked principals to call, to delegate people on their campus to make calls to these families who had selected on-campus instruction, and to ask them, with the numbers that we're seeing now, would you still want to send your child to our campus for on-campus instruction? So the new numbers as of today, number of families who wish to send their children for on-campus instruction at Fabens Elementary is 115, at O'Donnell is 24, at Fabens Middle, 61, and at Fabens High School, 61, for a total of 261, or 13% of our student body. Now, remember when I was talking about the hospitalization rate, and I said that the red zone for us was 20% or higher. The governor uses the hospitalization rate also to determine at which time he will reduce the number eligible of people to go into the restaurant, into restaurants, etc. He uses the gauge of 15%, at which time he will reduce that number to 50% rather than 75%, as other areas of Texas are already in the 75% opening. You'll see that again, I go back to 261 students on campus is 13% of our entire student body, clearly within the bounds of the governor's metrics that he uses. The last 2 columns indicate the number of families who changed to virtual And then the very last column, the number of families for which we could not get anybody to answer. And so those families are going to be assigned remote. So we're looking at a total of 261 students reporting back to the campuses on Monday. It's just a guess on my part, but I don't think that if Monday morning that we'll even have that many students, that we'll have probably fewer than 261 who actually come to our campuses. So with all of that information and much thought that went into this plan, I considered chunking out the next 3 weeks to get us to Thanksgiving. And then we'll have 3 more weeks after Thanksgiving to get us to our winter break. For next week, I am asking for teachers, for all staff, to come to work in Fabens ISD. We have the number of tests that are available through rapid testing for staff to return. Now, we're asking for staff to be very responsible. And we know that there are some staff who have exceptions, plans that have been submitted and approved by the HR department. I'm not talking about those staff members, but for the rest of us, we will have the option of taking the rapid test on Monday morning. We have teams that have been spread out to all campuses, and all departments have been assigned to a testing team as well. Tests are voluntary. Nobody will be forced to take a rapid test if you do not wish to take a rapid test. The rapid test is, the information is of course confidential, and we have worked hard to keep that confidentiality intact. As far as the students, we will not be testing all students. We will be testing the students if during the day they begin to exhibit symptoms of COVID. For the students who do return on Monday, they will be assigned an area on the campus rather than face-to-face in a classroom. There will be pods of students whereby we are responsible and required to provide instructional assistance to those students in pods. We must ensure that we are doing everything that we can to reduce the gap that people are talking about, that is becoming evident, that teachers are seeing has been created in our students by COVID. Our students have been in a different type of learning environment since March. And we owe it to our students to provide the best instruction that we can, whether it is on campus or remote. We have some campuses that are just knocking attendance out of the ballpark. We have campuses that are reporting 97 and 98% attendance. We have others that aren't at that level. We must work collectively. Teachers, I am asking you to focus on your lessons. Work on creating the most engaging type of lesson that you can, and follow up with your students. Everybody has a story regarding COVID. Everybody has baggage associated with COVID. let's be mindful that our students are going through tough times, just like everybody else. And we don't know what is going on in their homes. But we can provide a safe space, whether it's remote, in a pod, in a classroom, for our students to feel safe. It's what we're called to do. We all chose education as our profession, no matter what role you have in Fabens ISD. I know that I can count on you to continue to reach out to the students who are having the hardest time, whether it's their social emotional needs or they just can't get it remotely. We know that we've heard from students who say, I just can't get it on the computer. It's really hard. We've heard from parents who say it's really hard for my child to be on the computer all day. And of course, we hear from the kids who just miss their friends. We do too. And so inside and outside of our buildings, it's going to be up to us to do our part to slow down the spread of COVID. I don't like that I haven't been able to see my parents in person or my in-laws. But I do it because I don't want to be the person that's even remotely at risk of passing something on to them. And so I ask you to respect your colleagues. Be mindful of the people that are working around you and do it for them as much as you are doing it for yourself. Wear your face masks all the time. Make sure that they cover your nose. That we are staying far away from one another. Teachers, I know it's hard, but I eat lunch in my office by myself every day. I would love to eat with my colleagues. It's just not possible and it's not safe right now. So come to work. You'll be able to take the test weekly. And work in your classroom, work in your area, and go home. I know we have Halloween tomorrow. Again, we may all celebrate that day in different ways. But this year, it would be safest, if you're going to celebrate that day, to do it remotely. The holidays are coming, and it will be very, very, very challenging, very difficult. It will take self-restraint. This is not about politics. This is not about what you believe or what you don't believe politicians should be saying or doing. This is about the Fabens Wildcat family and embracing one another and collectively supporting one another by staying safe. Let me check my notes and see if I have forgotten anything. Again, you may have some questions. I said that I had a plan for the next 3 weeks, but planning by use of a crystal ball is not really a strong plan. I don't know what the numbers will be in 1 week. I hope and pray that we start to see a decline soon. So for now, this is me meeting you in the middle, asking teachers, teachers' aides, all the staff to continue to come to work. And we'll put the students in pods and provide them instructional support. We'll provide the rapid testing on Mondays. For right now, it's Mondays, Monday mornings for those who wish to participate. If you have specific questions about you and your case, individual questions, please reach out to your principal and your directors. If your principal doesn't know, if your director doesn't know, they'll contact me and we'll talk through it and come up with a response for you. Mr. Dominguez, can you go ahead and remove the PowerPoint at this time? I'll ask the panelists if they have anything else that I might have forgotten to say at this time. I'll turn it over to them. They're never this quiet, I will tell you. They always have something to say. Just know that I think that we have a powerhouse team in Fabens ISD. The people who you see on the screen are people who have worked non-stop since March. All of our leadership team, our directors give and give and give. Our teachers. It's no wonder that we have families calling us, when can my child return? They love you. They love what you do in the classroom. Stay safe, everybody. Stay safe. And let's stay united. We're always small town tough. Thank you for your time.